And tonight, we've learned a shocking number from the Treasury Department. Nearly 90% of the almost $50 billion allocated by Congress for rental assistance has not been distributed. Now, that money is meant for landlords whose tenants have stopped paying rent and cannot be evicted during the pandemic. CBS's Mola Lenghi reports in depth on the consequences for landlords in America's eviction crisis.
Brandy Lacasse has been waiting on rent for nearly a year.
I've cried many nights, like thinking, where's my money?
Lacasse owns 3 properties in upstate New York, but the single mother and Air Force veteran is functionally homeless after falling on some hard times. Lacasse says after notifying tenants they had to move out so she could move in, they simply stopped paying and stayed put. She and her daughter have been living out of her car and staying with friends. Despite more than $23,000 in unpaid rent, Lacasse can't force her tenants out because of state and federal moratoriums on evictions.
I don't understand how they can give my private property to somebody to live for free. I bought that property, I fixed it up with my blood, sweat, and tears.
The policies were meant to protect vulnerable renters during the pandemic, but some property owners say they have become collateral damage.
One thing that's very clear is we have no housing safety net.
Vincent Reyna, a housing policy expert and professor at the University of Pennsylvania, co-authored a new report showing that nearly 10% of landlords around the country collected less than half of their rent in 2020. Small landlords owning fewer than 6 units were most affected.
We're forcing low-income households and owners to essentially bear the cost of that in this current moment. And that's unfair to both parties.
I feel bad that I have not been able to pay her.
Carla MacArthur is Lacasse's tenant. With child care costs for her daughter and an autistic son, she says she can't pay rent.
We've gone from 2 incomes. I have had COVID-19 twice. My kids all have had it once. My husband's had it once. We've been affected by the virus.
MacArthur has been approved for rent relief in New York, but the state hasn't paid Lacasse yet. So far, New York has sent about 8% of its federal allotment of $2.6 billion relief dollars directly to landlords.
I'm not sure what she may do when the moratorium's lifted. That's what I'm afraid of, being homeless.
2 families trying to avoid the same fate.
I invested in these properties never thinking I wouldn't have a place to live.
On opposite sides of a looming crisis.
I just want my house. That's it. I just want my house.
Mola Lenghi, CBS News, New York.